Welcome back to the Experts in Fire podcast. Today's episode is the third and final installment in our series of how to grow your business with outdoor fire features. You can go over to woodlanddirect.com and listen to episode 1, Timing, Start Now, or episode 2, Smart Home Integration. Today is episode 3, Natural Gas versus Propane. Let's get into it. Hey Randy, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing awesome, Mike. How are you today?
I am well. I am doing very well. Thanks for asking, brother. So we're finishing up. Today is the final episode, how to grow your business with outdoor fire features. And we're going to talk about natural gas versus propane. We've done so many conversations about natural gas versus propane.
Absolutely. But, the thing, it always comes up, though, and I don't mind talking about because it is so important. And in this series that we've been doing about how to grow their business with outdoor fire features, we started with timing. We touched on, smart home integration. And this is perfect because this kind of plays with both of those earlier episodes that we used. And when we talk about natural gas versus propane, it's also planning. What are you going to use? How are you going to use it? And then if we jump into timing is natural gas. Do we have time to hard pipe it? Propane, do we have time to set a, 500-gallon tank in hard pipe it? So it depends on the application. So it's definitely a good end to the episode series.
I agree. It really has to do with going back to basics, right? It's so many times people will call us and we're having a conversation and they're already locked in a particular, fire feature. And then it's as simple as asking, well, what are you using, natural gas or propane? And it's amazing how that one question is going to dictate so much of the rest of the project.
Right.
So
absolutely.
I agree with you. How do you grow your business with natural gas versus propane? Well, I think the best answer we can give you there is ask that question, because that's going to help you guide and direct that homeowner to what they need to get to. So I like what you brought up already, Randy. Let's talk about the planning section of it. How would natural gas versus propane affect the plan, maybe that a dream that a homeowner has?
So as far as like the planning part of it, with my contractors, when they call, it's always great when the contractors call us on the front end of their projects and they're starting the quote process with a blank slate so that we can ask them the questions. Maybe they've already asked the client, maybe they haven't. Maybe it didn't come up. With the gas itself, it's always, are we hard piping a gas line? Is it just for the fire feature? These days, as our outdoor entertainment at our houses are getting more and more popular, how many fire features are going to be on a particular line? Or maybe these other things are already out there and they've decided to add a fire pit. So is it going to be natural gas? Obviously, natural gas is going to be hard pipe. Is it going to be propane? Are they setting a new tank? Are they coming off of an existing tank that supplies propane to the house? Or maybe those things don't make sense, financially for the client, and they want to use a simple, 5-gallon barbecue grill size tank. So those are the kind of things that are important from jumping back to the first episode is timing and getting those questions answered, because those are going to kind of guide us of what products are going to be available for our contractor's client to be able to use.
Yeah, those are some great points. As you were talking through that, I'm sitting there thinking of all of the hidden costs that are in each one of the answers that you're going to come to there. The hidden costs, most people think, I'll just use a 20-pound tank and I'll save the money of hard piping. Great, I get it, but you're also going to want to get a tank cover. You spend all this money on this nice fire pit and you got a barbecue tank sitting out there. It just doesn't look good.
What's this white thing hiding in the bush?
Exactly. It just doesn't look good. So there are so many hidden costs that come to it. And you're right. You start thinking about natural gas versus propane. Well, I have a natural gas line and I'll just pipe off of that. Oh, here we go again, right? All the way back to the conversations we've had before. Is the size of the pipe right? Who's your gas pro? The better you can answer these questions for a client, the more they're going to get drawn into you as the pro to say, man, I trust this guy. That is the goal. Our series is how to grow your business with outdoor fire features, right? If you can walk in having the answers for the client just based on the questions they've answered for you, then they're going to look at it and go, wow, this guy or gal can take this project from start to finish, especially if you hit them straight with any hidden costs as you're walking through that planning phase. You have fire-related questions, and we have answers. You can email us your questions at podcast@woodlanddirect.com or give us a call at 586-221-3638. We would love to be able to answer them right here on the Experts in Fire podcast. Randy, you had mentioned inside of what you were talking about there, the potential of a propane tank, and it's always an option. What does that do for someone, though, when it comes to the flame size? And then how does that also affect the ability or opportunity to use any kind of smart system?
No, it's a great question. And yeah, I was going to say, jumping back to episode 2, where we were talking about smart home integration, whether it's a smart home or just having the ability to operate any fire feature, whether it's a fire pit or a tiki torch with an app, those require electricity. And you're going to have 110 volts of power. It may run through a transformer, to 12 volts, but we do need power at the fire feature to be able to use those smart home integration applications. With propane, natural gas is one thing. That's going to be hard pipe no matter what. If we're going to use a smart home application or some type of integration there, then they're just going to need to be able to run electricity parallel to that into the fire feature itself. Where propane is different is we have the ability, as you said, to be able to have this portable tank like we use for a barbecue grill tank. They're 5-gallon tanks, or some people call them 20-pound propane tanks. And we have tons of fire pits that you can use the tank and conceal the tank inside of it. However, those are going to be limited to a battery-operated push-button ignition system. Now, if somebody's going to custom build a fire feature, they can only use a 20-pound tank, and the 20-pound tank is limited to 12 feet. That has to be within 12 feet just to kind of maintain a constant pressure for a burner. We can't run electricity to that unit and operate off of a 20-pound propane tank. There's not enough volume there. There's not enough constant pressure there. Those are, they're nice. They're ambient-style flames. When my contractors are calling me and they have a client, we want to be able to, we're used to burning wood. We want the folks that are up on the NASA space station to be able to see our fire pit. I'm sorry, but we just can't do that with a 20-pound propane tank. We can get somebody a nice big flame. Not sure they're going to be able to see it from the space station, but we can get a nice sizable 16, 24 inches of flame easily with something that's hard piped, giving the contractor the correct information on what that BTU requirement is going to be for the burner, because that's going to determine with the gas plumber of what diameter pipe he needs to run from A to B. And that'll be a calculation that they'll do based on whether teeing off at the length of that run, that end-use BTU of what we're supplying the burner for, to be able to provide all of that for them. So going back to that 20-pound propane tank, now we can do the same thing if it's hard pipe from we'll say a 500-gallon, 1,000-gallon tanks, that type of thing that supply houses. And they're going to be hard piped underground, just like they are for, natural gas. We can supply the same thing for them, Mike.
Yeah, you sit and think about the series, and as we've gone through this timing, was episode 1, and really the time is now to be talking to these clients and getting these types of questions answered. Because this question by itself, natural gas versus propane, is going to lead you down the path that you're going to follow for this project. And it's terrible when we get a call from someone who says, I'm almost done with this project. I've got all the gas lines run. Now I want this 36-inch round burner. And the first question you ask them is, okay, are you running natural gas or propane to this? Well, it's natural gas, so it should be plenty. Well, how big's the line? because it's all about volume, right? If you don't have the proper volume of gas to fill that 36-inch round burner, then you're going to have candles. And it's never good.
Absolutely. And the guys around here crack up all the time and my contractors crack up all the time. My preferred partners now call me and they're like, all right, this is what I've got. I've got Bic lighter gas pressure going on right now. They've heard me say it so many times. They're just like, okay, what can we do?
Yeah.
And you're right, because there could be a lot of things. And, as we talked about, the timing smart home integration is when we're talking about natural gas versus propane, with folks being outside more and more and bringing their friends over more and more just because of everything that's going on with this pandemic these days, we're doing patio heaters, gas patio heaters. People are really dressing up the outdoor entertainment area. They're adding the fire pits that we've been talking primarily about, but we have the patio heaters and gas that are available, as well as tiki torches. We've been doing a great deal of tiki torches. Folks are they're getting away from pouring the liquid in, and they're out there, they're gonna run gas. They're like, oh, well, I might as well just put gas tikis in, make it a lot easier. I can just turn them on and not have to buy the fuel anymore. So there's a lot of different things going on there between natural gas and propane that we want folks to consider. The financial part of running hard pipe obviously is a lot different than buying a portable propane tank for a fire feature, but then you are limited of what you're going to be what your offerings are going to be. Let's put it that way. So we want to work through those, for everybody and make sure that everybody's projects are correct in what they want and meet and exceed their expectations.
Absolutely. And, that's the point of the podcast, right? Is to get this information out to our pros and really just kind of tease, because we can't talk through every single scenario, but to kind of tease the mind to help think through what else do I need to know so that this is going to be a successful project. I can already hear the questions that homeowners are asking, right? Well, I want this and I want this and I want it to be as cheap as possible, but I want flame height that you can see from the space station. So for our pro to be able to walk in and go, that's a great, I can do it for that price, but the flame height will be Bic lighters, or let me put together a quote for you that's going to get you to the place you want to go. And one of the things that, we talked about in our last episode as well, in episode 2, is hidden costs. Hidden costs. These types of things are hidden costs that it's a surprise to everyone. So the more you can expose those hidden costs so that your quote is solid and your client is happy, it makes for a much better experience. And then everybody's going to be able to enjoy their time around their fire.
Yeah, I had a gentleman yesterday. He called and we started out with fire features, a fire pit, for example, and he is using propane. And we talked about what he was looking at. He initially called for an electronic ignition system that requires 110 volts of power, and it was going to require 300 and some thousand BTUs. And at the end of the day, his 20-pound propane tank that he was thinking about doing decided not to. We downsized his burner to about 180,000 BTUs, but he's going to hard pipe it with his propane, because he's still kind of on the front end. They haven't poured the concrete, and that's where these kind of things are important. He luckily called in because he had no intentions on running power to his fire pit. And was so we saved him money based on the application he was doing. From a product standpoint, we're going to be able to provide him a much taller, bigger flame presentation by choosing the right product for him. And he's a lot happier because he's saved, and he's a contractor. He's working on his own house, so he's doing everything himself. But it is all about expectation, getting the planning stages, and and he thought it was going to be something that, for example, from timing from episode 1, is that it was going to be able to be shipped out within just a couple days. But the 2 to 3 weeks in production right now, it's still going to work for him. We want to work through all that for our contractors and our clients and their clients.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just the question, natural gas versus propane, thrusts you into all the other things we've talked about, right? Timing, planning, episode 2 even. You just brought it up in that conversation there that you're having with that contractor. He wouldn't have run the electrical, Well, that takes out any opportunity of a smart system in the future from episode 2, and really all the way back to that planning portion. What is it going to take, and what are the hidden costs inside of there? Just by saying, what are you going to use, natural gas or propane? What do you got at the house, natural gas or propane? It's such an easy question to ask, and it's going to dictate just from the answer what your client is able to do or not do. You know, we really enjoyed this series, Randy, how to grow your business with outdoor fire features. I really appreciate you being here with me, man. This has been fun.
Oh, it always is. Yeah, this was a great category to go through because it's perfect timing for everybody to get their projects going. So it's been a blast.
Absolutely. And if you have any questions yourself, we have multiple ways that you can get a hold of us. And as always, we're so thankful that you listen. We really appreciate our listeners out there. And you've been listening to the Experts in Fire podcast. Join us next time for Finding the Right Location to Install a Fireplace, Gas versus Wood. We'll see you then.